Hello, everyone. Today I'm speaking with Mr. Himanshu Jadhav, CEO at Jendamark India. So, Jendamark is a leading industrial automation company that has been actively deploying assembly solutions for many prominent electric vehicle battery and component players. So, thank you, Himanshu, for joining us today.
Thank you, Priyakshi, and thank you, EV Reporter. I must first start by congratulating Priyakshi and EV Reporter for the wonderful coverage that they have been doing for several years on the EV ecosystem in India. So well done to you and your team, Priyakshi.
Thank you. Thank you, Himanshu. That means a lot. So let's start with Jendamark India's specific offerings for the electric vehicle industry. If you could give us a brief about that.
Sure. Maybe before I go to the EV offerings, I'll just give a bit of a background of Jendamark.
Sure.
So Jendamark actually is a company which is into automation, solution providing and manufacturing technology, which was started in South Africa in 1989. And it's been almost 34 years that Jendamark is operating globally. Jendamark entered India in 2014 end and started an Indian entity. And 2019 was when Jendamark India became a wholly owned subsidiary of the group. And that's the presence in India has grown since then. So initially, I remember it was around 40 odd people, which is now 280, 300 almost. So that's the growth in terms of business and in numbers. In terms of offerings, we started maybe providing initially the things like for automation industry or automotive industry, SPMs and assembly lines, aerospace. And eventually we ended up, to be honest, accidentally doing things for EV. And accidentally we came across one of my initial visits to Mahindra Electric in Bangalore. Our first battery pack line was conceptualized. Actually, since then, we have made it a point that we will not be a company which is going to offer different types of solutions for different customers, but one-stop solution for all the EV component manufacturers, which means any company which wants to set up a EV assembly line or an EV product to be launched in India, whether it's a battery pack, motor, inverter, rotor, MCU, anything which deals with EV component assembly, Jendamark is going to be the solution provider for such kind of customer.
Okay, wonderful. So you talked about Mahindra Electric was sort of your first electric vehicle battery line. So since then, can you name some of the prominent players you have worked with?
Yes, like I mentioned, Mahindra Electric was an accidental process which we came across because this was way back in 2018 when actually the FAME schemes were not even existing then. Big OEMs like Kalyani Powertrain, which is owned by Bharat Forge or Mahindra, Tata's, to several startups in the Indian EV ecosystem. All of them, we have been working with them and we are quite happy to associate with them on their product journeys.
Understood. So I understand, so process security has always been one of your most critical areas of focus. So can you help us understand what you mean by process security when it comes to putting up an assembly line?
Maybe if I take a step back to understand why we say what we say is our experience in building automation lines for IC components, whether it was IC engines, because we have built several lines for IC engines, axles, differentials. So when we see that side of the automotive ecosystem where there is IC and its components, we see a lots of efforts, a lot of processes, a lot of data-driven decision-making, which is there on the IC side. Now, when we look at the EV side today, unfortunately, we are not seeing that because it's an evolving industry. Now, everyone whom we speak to mostly, and because the industry is evolving, focuses a lot on product engineering. The product side is where everyone is putting a lot of efforts in terms of development of new product, development of new technology, improving the product offerings, whether it's in terms of mileage per charge or any kind of EV specific product offerings are being researched and deployed. Now you spend a lot of energy, time and investments in developing a product. You get it certified either by ARAI, by ICAT, and then you have to jump into production. When you jump into production, there we are seeing a gap in terms of understanding of the difference in making 5 or 10 prototypes versus making hundreds of components each day on a production line. There we are seeing this gap in process security. Now, why this gap is there and why it is important in EV especially? One, it's a evolving product.
Mm-hmm.
The skills which are required for assembly of a battery pack are totally different, for example, to assembling an engine.
Right.
We already have a lack of skills in India in terms of skilled labor, skilled manpower, skilled operators. When you have an evolving product, you have lack of skills. In fact, even the number of people available for doing such kind of assemblies are limited. We see that there is a substantial chance of something going wrong in the assembly process.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, in the Western world, the idea would be very simple: automate everything, put robotics, automations, and take out the entire influence of operators. But the Indian ecosystem, we need a good mix of manual operator processes to keep the cost economical, and a good mix of, it's a healthy mix of automation. And there we feel that process security is of prime importance, because we cannot control every single part assembled by an operator on every product which is assembling each day, each shift, day in, day out, yes, without supervision. And because we also have, unfortunately, a contractual system where operators change every month, every few months, we have a new set of operators. So leaving and skilling the operators is something which we cannot really rely on. We have to have processes which we have now put in with our Odin ecosystem, or the lines we assemble have process security inbuilt, the Industry 4.0 solutions which we deploy on our lines. This makes the risk of ensuring the product is assembled every time in the right way almost zero. So we ensure that, irrespective of the skill of the operator, irrespective of the change in the product, the complexity of the assembly of the process, we are always ensuring that the end product which is coming out of the line is 100% process secure, and most importantly, as per the certification received for that product from either the certification authority like ARA or ICAT. And that is where I think the process security part plays a paramount role for us.
So if we talk specifically about electric vehicle batteries, and specifically with the AIS 156 new regulations coming in, now we need more automation, more checks and balances. And how can a solution like Odin or your other solution help the battery pack manufacturers achieve it?
Yes. So currently the stage of AIS 156 calls for, I think, in my opinion, initial level of process securities. For example, the battery pack manufacturer, to be specific, has to record the open circuit voltage or the impedance resistance of each cell against the serial number of each cell. He also has to take the data from the cell manufacturer and have it in his company or in his factory, and ensure that only the right quality of cells with the right charge levels are used for the battery pack assembly. So you have to have, let's say, cell sorting mechanism, cell sorting machines, and ensure that the grades of one type of grade only goes into a particular battery pack. And all this data has to be stored. So you should know in the end, as a summary, battery pack made for a particular vehicle has which cells at what OCIR levels and at what charge levels. You also have to voltage or the complete power that a battery pack can offer before it is put into a module can offer before it's put into a battery pack. Now, these are certain norms which the new AIS 156 has come up, which ensures that the right cells get used. What we also feel is, apart from ensuring the right input part quality, which currently AIS 156 focuses on, we also feel that ensuring the right process is followed. Like, for example, when you want to screw a BMS cable to a battery, you have to ensure that the right torque is getting applied. Otherwise, we don't have loose cables in the battery pack. We have to ensure that the torque is retained. We have to ensure that the connections are done correctly. Now, these things are certain things which a process security mandates, that which I feel should come up and will come up, I'm sure, because we are seeing that already in developed countries that such process security norms are necessary. Well, I think more than the norms, I always urge my manufacturers or my customers to look at the value this brings against the risk it mitigates.
Right.
Because you don't want to have a situation where, because one bad product, even after successfully deploying 5,000, 6,000, 10,000 products in the field, one bad product is enough to bring down a recall campaign and bring down a company's credentials. So that is where we see that process security in every single process step. So for example, you should also know why just the cells. You should also know which BMS has gone into which battery pack. You should also know which rotor shaft has gone into which motor. You should also know which winding is correct. What is the data of the winding? So that in future, if there is any issue, traceability back to the child part level and the way it was assembled, by whom it was assembled, who certified it, is all available. This actually, apart from process security, it also helps in identifying where are the bottlenecks, where is production efficiency getting lost. So that, and I've seen this now last 3-4 years, customers who are using our Odin ecosystem, or the Odin is our name of our software, which we have developed, keeping specifically manufacturing in mind for assembly lines. We have seen now they are able to improve the efficiencies by 30% without any additional investments.
Himanshu, you also mentioned that in India, we basically need a healthy mix of operators and automation. So can you help us understand how automation helps the human operators, the human resources who are working in an assembly line to do their work more efficiently and more reliably?
Yes. I think maybe the right word is not automation, but the right word would be digitalization. So using digital process steps. So we start always by informing the operator on an operator guidance screen in his local language, in a very simple visual display, what process step he has to follow. It is a nice clean screen, shows him the process step which he sees in front of him, and in his local language, whether it is Tamil, Kannada, Punjabi, whichever language, in a local language, so he relates to it. So right. I see a picture, I see an instruction in my local language, and I look at the product and I can see what is to be done. We indicate to the operator what tools he has to pick, which parts he has to pick with pick-to-light arrangements, and he is now in a very comfortable zone to pick those parts, follow the process steps, use the tools, and assemble in light sequence. He also has to acknowledge after every process step, he has done the process step, and only then we switch to the next process step, which means a sequence gets followed every single time. Until all the process steps on a particular station are done, we don't release the product to the next station. This allows that the quality is getting built in every process step, in every station, and subsequently such stations together form an assembly line, and then at the end of the line, the product gets rolled out. So this is how an operator with semi-skills or literally no skills can follow our operator guidance system, can follow our process security measures like the pick-to-light tracks, the clamping mechanisms which we have got, the tightening tools which we use, the barcode scanners which we use. They're all integrated together into one Odin ecosystem. Not just on the assembly line, but also on the maintenance side, we have certain solutions and softwares called Odin Checkpoint, which actually are helping the maintenance team to maintain their machines effectively. And most important feature of such a software is called as raise alert. So as an operator, what I've seen now is I see something is not correct on my station or in my workplace, but I am not really sure whom should I tell, how should I tell, or information flow is not very effective. Now with the raise alert feature, you can take out a smartphone, take an image, raise an alert on the fly to a right person, whether it is a part missing, a part damaged, a machine not working well, hissing sound from pneumatics. So there is an awareness, and apart from the awareness, there is a responsibility given now with the right tools to ensure that it gets reported back to the right authorities or the department who can take action. This collaborative working has really brought a good mixture of humans actually interacting with machines, but through a technology which was not available. And this bridge between humans and machines with this technology is what is seeing rich dividends for our customers.
Okay, understood. Like you mentioned, one very particular example of incorrect torque applied. Similarly, while assembling a lithium-ion battery pack, could there be certain safety concerns or risks that can be managed if a solution has been deployed?
Yes. For example, if I look at most of, even in AIS 156 and most products now have a standard rating of IP, that is ingress protection,
Yes.
which means basically the battery pack or the motor has to be completely dust and waterproof, right? And now we design device machines and mechanisms which do the test, store the value of the results, and decide based on the value which is coming out, is the product meeting the rating requirements of IP67. Now, that is very important that such test results are not just carried out but analyzed, assessed, and the data is used to make the right decision. So otherwise, typically we have customers where they have equipment, but the decision making is still left to the individual. For us, that is a gap, because if I have a certain leak test machine where I am supposed to carry out a leak test as an operator and I see a result, but if the result is not good, but I still have the choice to let the product go ahead. This is a big lacuna in the system which do not use systems like Odin. Whereas what would have happened now, if the same situation was with Odin software, the leak test would have been performed and the system will not allow, if the leak test is not as per the specific requirements to qualify as the OK part, to proceed ahead. The system will stay, ensure that a part does not leave the station till it is fixed.
So thank you so much, Himanshu, for being very candid in this chat and sharing your experiences and your perspective. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Priyakshi. Have a nice day. Bye.
Do. Thanks.